A bride in $5,000 of white lace walked into the side doorway of the ballroom and froze in her heels. A black man was bent over the keys of a Steinway Grand. She pointed straight at him. She laughed out loud. "The loser I left," she said, loud enough for 300 guests to turn their heads from their champagne glasses. The man's hands stopped moving. He straightened up slowly. He had loved her once. She had called him the biggest loser she had ever met. In 20 minutes, she was going to walk down the aisle and marry the only son he had left in the world. But he did not raise his voice. He did not lift his hand. He did not look back at her a second time. He simply stood there in silence, breathing through the sting of her words while she walked past him toward her father and toward her future husband. The ceremony would start in 19 minutes. Marcus Cole was 56 years old. He lived alone in a small studio apartment on the south side of the city. The rent was $840 a month. Every single dollar was earned by his own hands. None was ever given to him. His wife Elise used to write their names in capital letters on every birthday card. Marcuselice. She had stopped signing her name 9 years ago. Cancer had taken her voice before it took her body. This morning had started before dawn. He had woken at 4:30. He had made the bed the way he had been taught at the Catholic school for boys when he was 9. Hospital corners, tight as a bow. He had washed his face with cold water. He had ironed his one good shirt the night before. It was pale blue with a small tear at the second button his sister had repaired twice. He had put on his black work shoes. He had placed his tuning tools inside his leather case one by one in the same order every morning for 19 years. The case had a small tear at the handle. He had stitched it himself 3 times. He had kissed the photograph of Elise before he locked the door behind him. He walked his 4 blocks to the bus stop, same 4 blocks every workday. He had counted the steps for 9 years, 412 steps exactly. He rode the bus at 5:43 in the morning. He carried his tuning case the way he used to carry his concert bag to Juilliard, with both hands low at the hip, a small smile at the corner of his mouth. He had been a larger man when he carried that bag. He had weighed 180 pounds then. He weighed 146 pounds now. He told himself it was because he walked more. The truth was he ate 1 meal a day. He had not said that out loud to anyone in 9 years. His apartment was small, but he kept it clean. He cooked 1 meal a day, usually beans and rice, sometimes eggs. He put the dishes away before he went to bed. He folded his towels the way the hotel staff in Vienna had folded them on their honeymoon. He hung his 4 shirts in order of color from left to right. He owned 1 pair of black shoes for work. He owned 1 pair of brown shoes for the rest. He owned 1 winter coat. He owned 1 photograph of Elise. He held that photograph once a day, every day, before he kissed her on the glass and set her back down. He talked to her in a soft voice. He told her where he had been. He asked her if she was warm. If this story found something true in you, hit like right now. That small tap tells me quiet stories like this one still have a place in your day. And if you have not yet, hit subscribe so the next one finds your hands before anyone else's. We tell the stories of the people the world tried to forget. Stay with me. The next part is where the bride is about to see for the first time the man she mocked at her own wedding. The venue manager had called him yesterday afternoon. Her name was Avery. She had a job for him. A Steinway Grand needed to be tuned for a private wedding. The pay was $250. His rent was due in 9 days. Marcus had not tuned a Steinway for a wealthy wedding in 3 years. Most of his clients now wanted small, upright pianos in middle-class homes. He did not tell Avery that he had once played Steinways at the White House, at Carnegie Hall, at 12 different world capitals. He did not tell anyone that anymore. He arrived at the loading dock at 6:45 in the morning. The venue was on 42nd Street. He rolled his black case into the service hallway. He did not rush. He walked in a straight line, eyes forward, working his fingers loose. 3 more turns and the tuning would be perfect. Marcus lifted the lid off the Steinway. He checked the action. He checked the felt. He checked every hammer one at a time. He tested the soft pedal. He tested the sostenuto. He tested the damper. He let his fingers trail across the keys without pressing them. He remembered the first Steinway he had ever touched. It was at Juilliard when he was 17. The dean had told him to play 1 piece on the school's grand piano in room 311. He had sat down. He had played a Chopin ballade. His hands had trembled. He had not stopped trembling for the next 40 years of his life except when Elise had touched his shoulder. In those years when Daniel had still folded his hands at breakfast, Marcus had performed at 6 continents. He had played privately for 2 American presidents. He had played at the White House twice. He had played for the Crown Princess of Denmark on her 40th birthday. He had been written about in 13 major music magazines around the world. They had called him the gentlest of the great modern concert pianists of his generation. He had taught at Juilliard for 9 years. He had turned down $4 million contracts to keep teaching small classes to small students. He had married Elise in a small chapel 2 months after he had first seen her. He had been faithful to her for 23 years. He had played every lullaby their son Daniel ever fell asleep to. In the bridal suite at the end of the hall, Caroline Prescott was standing in front of a tall mirror. She was 27 years old. She was about to become Caroline Prescott Cole by the end of the afternoon. She ran the family hotel business with her father. They owned 12 hotels along the East Coast. She had a printed list of 52 wedding guests in her left hand. The bridesmaids stood behind her. They had been her friends since prep school. They were laughing about a joke one of them had told about Daniel's mother. Caroline smiled at the joke. She did not yet know that Daniel's mother had been married to a black concert pianist before she died. Daniel had never once told her. He had never once said the name Marcus Cole out loud in the 8 years they had been together. Caroline stood tall in her lace and silk. She smoothed the front of her gown. She looked at her reflection and smiled the smile she had practiced for 3 months. The photographer stepped in close. He took 10 photos of her alone. The bridesmaids stepped in behind her. They took 20 more photos. The photographer asked her to walk down the side hallway toward the ballroom door so he could capture the moment she first saw her groom at the altar. Caroline lifted her chin. She walked. Her father walked 1 step behind her. The hallway opened into the ballroom. She saw the candles. She saw the white roses. She saw the silver chairs. She saw the Steinway Grand. She saw the man bent over the keys. She froze again. She stared at him. Her mouth fell open for a half-second. Then she closed it and smiled. She did not want her father to see surprise. She did not want the photographer to capture confusion. She took 1 step closer to the ballroom door. The bridesmaids gathered behind her. They were still laughing. Caroline pointed 1 finger straight at the black man bent over the Steinway. She turned to her bridesmaids. She did not lower her voice. She said it loud enough for 300 guests to hear. She said his name without saying his name. "The loser I left," she said to her bridesmaids. "The one I told you about, the piano teacher with the big empty life. I told you he was a complete loser, and look at him now." Her laugh rolled across the ballroom in waves. 300 guests turned their heads. The bridesmaids covered their mouths with their hands. Caroline shrugged. She was not embarrassed. She was proud. She was about to marry a man worth $92 million. She could laugh at any worker she pleased. The black man stood up slowly from the piano. He held his hands very still at his sides. He did not speak. He did not look away. He looked at Caroline the way a father looks at a child who has cut herself on glass. He looked at her with quiet, distant, terrible pity. Marcus did not feel the sting immediately. He felt the sting a moment later. He felt it settle in his chest like a stone dropped from a high bridge. He had loved her once. She had been a piano student of his. She had been 21 years old. He had been 50. He had been 348 days out of his wife's funeral. He had said yes to her one afternoon when he should have said no. He had said yes because her smile had looked like Elise's in a different light. He had said yes because he had felt like a ghost for 300 days. He had not known how to say no. He had not known how to be alone. He had known how to teach. He had not known how to refuse. If this part is hitting your chest, hit like right now. That small tap tells me quiet stories like this one have a real place in your feed. And if you have not already, hit subscribe so the next story finds your hands before anyone else's. We tell the stories of the people the world tried to forget. Stay with me. The next part is the part she does not yet know she is going to regret. The best man opened the inner door. Daniel Cole walked into the ballroom. He was 30 years old. He was tall. He had his mother's lighter skin and his father's dark eyes. He weighed 185 pounds. He wore a black tuxedo he had rented the week before. He walked with 1 hand in his pocket. He looked calm on the outside. He felt like a stranger in his own body on the inside. He had not seen his father in 12 years. He had not told Caroline about his estranged father. He had not yet noticed the black man bent over the Steinway 3 hallways away. He noticed him now. Daniel's heart stopped in the middle of a beat. He watched his father from across the room. He watched his father straighten at the piano. He watched his father breathe. He could see the small hollow at his father's left cheek where a muscle tightened every time his father tried not to cry. He had seen that same muscle tighten when his father's mother had died in 1992. He had seen it tighten the morning his own mother had been carried out of their apartment in a small wooden box. He had seen it tighten when Daniel himself had said the words that broke his father in half. "Come back," he wanted to say. "Come back to me the way you were before," but he could not speak. The ballroom was 300 deep. Marcus saw him at the ballroom door. He saw the dark curls. He saw the brown eyes. He saw the suit rented for the day. He saw the small pale scar above the right eyebrow from the bicycle accident at age 7. Marcus had been the one to drive him to the hospital. Marcus had held his hand through the stitches. Marcus had promised his son that night he would never let him get hurt again. He had been wrong. He had not let his son get hurt by a bicycle. He had let his son get hurt by his own absence. He had let his son get hurt by his own long silences. He let go of the keys. Daniel walked toward the Steinway. He walked slowly. He did not want to walk fast. Walking fast would feel like he was performing. He did not want to perform. He wanted to be seen as he actually was. He walked past 3 tables of bridesmaids. He walked past his own best man. He walked past Caroline's father. None of them understood yet. They thought he was walking toward the bride. They did not know that his bride was standing 10 feet behind him with her mouth still half open from her laughter. Daniel took one more step. He stopped 3 feet from the Steinway. He looked at his father. "Dad," he said. His voice did not sound loud. It sounded small and broken, the way a small boy's voice sounds when he is sick in the night and calls for a parent. The word fell out of him like something he could not hold. The word had been sitting in his chest for 12 years. He had told himself he would never say it again. He had told himself he was too angry to say it again. He had been wrong about that for 12 years. The ballroom went silent. 300 guests forgot the candles. Marcus did not know what to do with his hands. He did not know what to do with his face. He did not know what to do with his voice. He had not heard the word dad from his own son in 12 years. He had forgotten how the word sounded when his son said it. The word sounded the same as it had sounded when Daniel was 4. It sounded like a bell struck once in an empty church. Marcus held his hands at his sides. He blinked once. He blinked again. He cleared his throat. He said one word. "Son," his voice cracked on the word. He put his hand over his mouth. He tried again, "Son." The room had gone silent the moment Daniel said the word. The bridesmaids had stopped laughing. Caroline's father straightened his shoulders. The best man stepped forward. The efficient Father Michael Reeves stepped down from the altar. Father Michael was 72 years old. He had performed Marcus and Elise's wedding ceremony in 1993. He had baptized Daniel at the church in 1994. He had buried Elise at the cemetery in 2015. He had watched Marcus lose his teaching job 2 years later. He had watched Marcus lose his house in 2019. He had held Marcus's hand through every loss. He had not held Marcus's hand in 3 years. He held it now. If this moment is making your chest tighten, hit like right now. That tap is more than a number for me. It is the quiet way you tell me these stories matter. And hit subscribe if you have not yet, so the next one finds you before it finds anyone else. Stay with me. The room is about to find out who the man at the piano really was. Father Michael walked across the ballroom. He stopped between Marcus and Daniel. He did not look at Caroline. He looked at the wedding guests. He raised his voice. He said, "The gentleman at the piano is Marcus Cole." He said the name the way priests pray out loud with full breath in every syllable. He said Marcus Cole played for 2 American presidents behind closed doors. He said Marcus Cole played at the White House twice. He said Marcus Cole was written up in 13 major music magazines around the world. He said they called him the gentlest of the great modern conch. Pianists of his generation. He said Marcus Cole taught at Juilliard for 9 years. He said Marcus Cole turned down $4 million contracts to keep teaching small classes to small students. He said Marcus Cole married his wife Elise in this same city in 1993. He said Elise was the love of his life for 23 years. He said Elise died of cancer in 2015. He said Marcus sold his home to pay her medical bills. He said Marcus lost his teaching job 2 years later when he could not travel for international concerts. He said Marcus lost everything he owned except his name. He paused. He looked at the bride. He said Marcus Cole never lost his dignity. The first man to stand was Henry Weissman. He was 81 years old. He was Marcus's oldest friend from Juilliard. He had flown up from Florida to attend this wedding as a guest of the bride's father. He had not known Marcus was the piano tuner. He had not seen Marcus in 15 years. He had not known Marcus was still alive. He had not known Marcus had a son of Daniel's age. He stood up on his old wooden cane. He did not clap. He did not speak. He simply stood. He looked at Marcus. He nodded. The whole ballroom saw him stand. Then the second man stood. He was a teacher at Juilliard. Then 5 more stood. They were the older guests. They had been at Carnegie Hall that November night in 2005 when Marcus had played the Chopin ballade he would play this afternoon. Then 10 more stood. They were scattered around the room. Then Caroline's own father stood. His face was pale. He had not known that his daughter's joke had been at the expense of a man who had played for presidents. Then a row stood. Then 3 rows stood. The ovation held in silence. They did not cheer. They did not shout. They held still together. If this part of the story is sitting in your throat, hit like right now. It is the only small tap that tells me quiet stories like this one belong in your life. And hit subscribe if you have not already, so the next one finds you before anyone else gets there. We tell the stories of the people the world thought it could safely forget. Stay with me. The bride is about to find out a truth that will change her whole life. Caroline walked toward Marcus. She tried to smile the smile she had practiced for 3 months. The smile did not work. It cracked at the corners. She stopped 3 feet from the Steinway. She tried to speak. She tried to say, I did not know. She tried to say, I am so sorry. She tried to say, please forgive me. The words would not come out of her mouth. Her bridesmaids had stopped laughing. They were standing near the bridal suite door. They were looking at the floor. Caroline tried the smile again. It cracked harder. She said out loud, I did not know it was you, Marcus. She said, her voice with a small tremble at the edges. She said, I was confused. She said, I had no idea Daniel was your son. She said, please accept my apology right now. She said, we can move past all of this in about 5 minutes. She said, I want this day to be perfect. Marcus looked at her. He did not speak right away. He cleared his throat a 3rd time. He said, you do not owe me an apology. He said, you owed me an apology 9 years ago. He said, when you stood in my studio every Wednesday at 4 in the afternoon. He said, you do not owe me an apology in this room. He said, you owed me an apology 9 years ago. He said, when you stood in my studio every Wednesday at 4 in the afternoon. He said, when you held my hand on the bench next to the 2nd piano. He said, when you laughed at my old coat in the snow outside the conservatory. He said, when you called me washed up. He said, when you told your friends I was a complete loser with a big empty life. He said the words softly. He did not raise his voice. He did not point at her. He said the words like he was reading a letter he had written in his head for 9 years. He said, I was your teacher. He said, I was 50. He said, my wife had just died. He said, I was broken in every room I walked through. He said, you were 21. He said, you smiled at me in the same way Elise had smiled at me. He said, I said yes when I should have said no. He said, you did not ask me if I wanted you. He said, I said yes because I was a ghost. He paused. He said, you called me a loser 9 years ago. He said, I have not felt anything since. Caroline's face went through 5 stages in front of the 300 guests. Caroline's 5 stages of collapse. The first stage was arrogance. She did not believe him at first. She tried to smile her practice smile again. The second stage was confusion. She did not understand why he had said yes in the first place. She thought he was old enough to know better. The third stage was denial. She shook her head. She tried to interrupt. She said he was wrong. The fourth stage was recognition. She saw his shoulders. She saw his hands. She saw the small white scar on the side of his neck that she had kissed 9 years ago. The fifth stage was smallness. Caroline stood 5'6" tall in her $5,000 gown. She shrank 3 inches in front of 300 guests. If this scene is making your eyes sting, hit like right now. That tap is the quiet way you tell me these stories matter. And hit subscribe if you have not yet, so the next one finds your hands before anyone else's. We tell the stories of the people the world tried to forget. Stay with me. The room is about to do something it has not done in 9 years. Daniel took one more step. He closed the distance between himself and his father. He stood shoulder to shoulder with the man at the Steinway. He did not hold his hand out for a handshake. He did not hold his arms out for a hug. He simply stood there. He was 30 years old. He was a hedge fund manager. He weighed 185 pounds. He had 300 witnesses. He looked at his father. He said, I am sorry I stayed away for 12 years, Dad. He said, I am sorry I closed the door on the apartment that night. He said, I have been sorry every day since. Marcus looked at his son. He looked at those brown eyes his wife had given him. Marcus looked at his son. He looked at those brown eyes his wife had given him. He looked at the small, pale scar above his right eyebrow. He remembered the bicycle accident. He remembered the stitches. He remembered the promise he had made that night. He remembered that he had been wrong. He opened his left hand. He held it out to his son. The hand trembled. Daniel took it. He felt the calluses on his father's fingers. He felt the rough skin. He felt the way his father held on as if he were afraid to let go. Father Michael stepped close to the two of them. He placed one hand on Daniel's shoulder. He placed one hand on Marcus's shoulder. Father Michael spoke. He raised his voice so the room could hear. He said, this family lost their mother 9 years ago. He said, this family lost each other 9 years ago. He said, this family found each other again today in this ballroom. He said, we have an empty seat at the front of this room today. He paused. He looked at the framed photograph of Elise on the small table near the altar. He said, Marcus, would you play a song for your son? He said the words out loud. He said the words to a man who had played for presidents. He said the words to a man who had not sat at a Steinway for 9 years. He said, your son is getting married today. He said, his mother is watching from the seat at the front. He said, your son needs a song. He said, just one song. He said, the bride does not need to play for it. He said, the bride does not need to hear for it. He said, your son needs his father to play a song for this day. Marcus did not answer right away. He did not move for 20 seconds. He held his son's hand. He held it the way Elise had held his hand when Daniel was first born. He held it like the hand of a small boy. Daniel let him hold it. If this story is hitting your chest the way it hit mine, hit like right now. It is the only way to tell me quiet stories like this one still have a real place. And if you have not already, hit subscribe so the next one finds your hands before anyone else gets to it. Stay with me. The song is about to begin. Marcus let go. He sat down at the Steinway. He set his hands on the keys. He did not play right away. He looked at the photograph of Elise. He saw her small smile in the silver frame. He saw her standing at the stove on Sunday mornings. He saw her folding her hands on the table. He saw her teaching Daniel to fold his hands. He raised his hands above the keys. He lowered them. He played the first 4 bars of a Chopin ballade in G minor. The first note hit the ballroom walls like a bell, struck one time in a quiet room. He had played this same piece on the day he had auditioned for Juilliard at age 17. He had played it the night he had met Elise. He had played it the night Daniel had been born. He had played it the morning Elise had died. He had not played it since. The second note held longer than a heartbeat. The third note rose above the room like a prayer. The room went quiet. The candles flickered. Caroline's father closed his eyes. The bridesmaids looked at the floor. Henry Weissman stood up again on his old wooden cane. Father Michael closed his eyes and held his hands together. The pianist closed his eyes and kept playing. Marcus played the song for 4 minutes. He did not rush it. He did not skip notes. He did not look at the audience. He played the song the way Elise had taught him to play songs for her, at her pace with her breathing as if she were sitting at the front row in her green dress. He played the coda. The coda was the part he had played at Carnegie Hall. He played it the way he had played it when Daniel was 8 years old and had sat on the piano bench with him on Sunday afternoons. He played it the way he had not played it in 9 years. Daniel stood at the Steinway. He closed his eyes. He listened to the song his father used to play every night at the practice room while Daniel did his homework at the kitchen table. He remembered the sound of the song through the floorboards. He remembered the small white rabbit Daniel had drawn on the first page of his reading book the year his father had taught him to read. He remembered the way his father had kept the drawing in a small frame on the piano for 22 years. He had not seen the frame in 12 years. The song held the room together like a hand around a small, warm stone. When the last note held, the room did not applaud for a full 7 seconds. Then Henry Weissman raised his cane. Then the 300 guests rose together. They did not shout. They did not cheer. They stood. Some held their hands together. Some held a hand over their mouth. Caroline's father bowed his head. Daniel held his hand over his heart. The bridesmaids clutched one another by the arms. Caroline stood very still at the side of the room. She had not moved in 4 minutes. She had not been able to move. The ovation held for 40 seconds. The candles burned low. The white roses leaned toward the Steinway. If this song made your chest tight, hit like right now. That tap is the only way to tell me these stories still matter in your day. And hit subscribe if you have not, so the next one finds your hands before anyone else gets there. Stay with me. The room has one more quiet truth before the day ends. Father Michael turned to Caroline. He did not raise his voice. He said this wedding was planned around a piano. He said this wedding was planned around music. He said this wedding was planned around a song. He paused. He said, I will not perform a wedding today between a bride who laughs at her future husband's father. He said, I am sorry, Caroline. He said, this ceremony will not happen in this room today. Caroline's father stepped forward. He put one hand on his daughter's shoulder. He said, Caroline, he said, we are leaving. Caroline tried to protest. Caroline tried to use her practice smile. Her practice smile would not work. Her father walked her to the ballroom door. The bridesmaids followed. The photographer followed. The man with the clipboard followed. Caroline walked out of the ballroom in her $5,000 wedding gown. She did not look back at Marcus. She did not look back at Daniel. Daniel did not look at her either. He looked at his father. The ballroom emptied slowly. Father Michael did not move. Henry Weissman did not move. Daniel and Marcus slowly found themselves alone with the candle flames and the photograph of Elise at the front of the room. Daniel said, Dad. Daniel said, I thought you were dead. Daniel said, I thought you had died of a broken heart in that apartment. Daniel said I did not call. Daniel said I did not write. Daniel said I did not pick up the phone for 12 years. Daniel said I thought about you every day. Daniel said I could not figure out how to call. Daniel said I could not figure out what to say. Daniel paused. He said I would have come back sooner if I had known you were still here. He said I would have come back in 12 minutes if I had known. Marcus said, son. Marcus said I thought you did not want me. Marcus said I thought you hated me. Marcus said I thought you closed that door on me because I had killed your mother. Marcus said your mother died of cancer. Marcus said cancer killed your mother. Marcus said I did not kill your mother. Marcus said I wish I had killed cancer. Marcus paused. He said I would have killed it with my hands if I could. He said I tried to kill it with money. He said I tried to kill it with music. He said the cancer killed me too. It just took longer. If this story has lived inside you tonight, hit like right now. That tap is more than a number for me. It is the quiet way you tell me these people deserve to be remembered. And hit subscribe if you have not yet, so the next one finds your hands before anyone else gets to it. Stay with me. There is one quiet moment before the day closes. Father Michael walked them to the back door. He raised his hand in a small blessing. He did not preach. He did not pray out loud. He opened the back door. The alley smelled of garbage and rain. Daniel hailed a cab. Henry Weissman stepped up beside them. He did not speak. He pressed a small envelope into Daniel's hand. Daniel opened it. It was a check for $40,000. Daniel looked at it. Henry Weissman said, "This is from your father's old friends at Juilliard. We have been saving it for 14 years. We did not know where you were. We did not stop saving." Marcus rode home in the cab with his son. Daniel held his father's arm the way he had held his father's arm when he was 7 years old. The cab drove past 42nd Street. The cab drove past the bus stop where M. Marcus caught the 543 every workday. The cab drove past the 4 blocks where Marcus walked 412 steps every workday. The cab stopped in front of Marcus's studio apartment building. Marcus did not want to get out. Daniel did not want to let go. They sat in the back seat of the cab for 8 minutes before either one moved. Daniel walked his father up the 4 flights of stairs. Daniel saw the cracked paint on the hallway walls. Daniel saw the small leak in the ceiling at the 3rd floor. Daniel saw the door with the brass number 312. Daniel saw the size of the apartment when Marcus opened it. Daniel saw the 4 shirts hanging left to right in order of color. Daniel saw the small cot. Daniel saw the photograph of Elise on the table by the window. Marcus said, "It is small, son." Marcus said, "But it has everything I need." Daniel did not speak for a moment. Daniel said, "It has me in it now." Daniel slept on the small cot that night. Marcus did not sleep. Marcus sat at the kitchen table and held the photograph of Elise. He held it the way he had held it every night for 9 years. He said, "Did